Hello there, and a very warm welcome to Chazingdra Chats, the show where we take a stroll through the life stories of people in the Pokemon community, discovering the 6 Pokemon on their dream team along the way. I'm Charlie Merriman, merry by name, merry by nature, otherwise known as Chazingdra, a host and commentator for the Pokemon Video Game Championship Series, and a content creator. And this week, as every week, I very much hope my guest and I can make your day merry, because I have the pleasure of being joined by John, aka PM7. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is very exciting. You know, I can talk, so having me up here talking about myself isn't actually my favorite thing to do, but I think it's an interesting opportunity to dive into things. So thank you very much.
I totally agree. But thank you so much for joining me on the show. I'm sure, as I was saying to you just before we started recording, I'm sure your subscribers are looking forward to getting to know the person behind the Pokemon a little bit, or at least what got you to the position where you're in now. Now, for anyone who's not so familiar with you, John, can you give a brief introduction to yourself?
Yeah, I'm a long-time Pokemon fan. I'm just someone who loved Pokemon from the very beginning, Pokemon Yellow till now. People ask, why are you a Pokemon content creator? It's just the one game I never really got burnt out on or got sick of. I love battling, just doing playthroughs. You know, more difficult challenges, shiny hunting, collecting, trading. I've enjoyed the cards, just anything with this game. I've really enjoyed it. I feel like there's more variety to this series than people really recognize. And I think my career and my channel has really kind of shown that off of I enjoy every aspect of the games. And, you know, I think that's a good enough introduction. We have a lot of talking to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, John. These games do run so much deeper than people assume. And yeah, I think our channels are on a similar level at that point. I mean, my channel's also all about everything that the Pokemon video games have to offer, all of it, because there's so many activities to get lost in. Now, John and I, we've never met in person. I just sent John a random message out of the blue. I have to give a shout out here to Ron TrueGreen7 putting us in touch. That is a guest I've had on the show. So thank you so much, Ron, for enabling this collaboration, this episode to happen. So, I mean, without further ado, John, as you say, I've got a lot to talk about, so shall we do this?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Fantastic. Let's dive into the archives, discover the 6 Pokemon on your dream team. So what we're going to start off with here, and I love that you said in your message to me before we recorded today, you feel like you've got solid topics that span your long online Pokemon life. So let's start more or less at the beginning here with finding your first shiny.
Yeah, now this one, it really just set off a lot of different things I could have never expected. But I absolutely loved Pokemon Platinum. I just kept playing the game over and over again, and eventually had a save file where I just wanted to find things to do. And I think it's the professor at some point tells you, like, oh, if you do like the Poke Radar, there's different colored Pokemon that can pop up. And I didn't really know what that meant. I'd seen something in a guidebook, and I'll come back to that. But I went to the extra area where you can get, like, buy a house in Platinum, and there's like a deserty area. So there was the sandstorm going. I don't know if the sparkles popped up, but I found this blue-nosed Dugtrio, and it was so exciting. But I was a little disappointed, like, I got the blue nose variant. And the reason I thought it was a variant is a friend of mine had a Pokemon guidebook. It may have been a Pokemon guidebook from Turkey. It's one I've never been able to find ever again. And it showed 4 Zubats, a blue one, a green one, a red one, and a yellow one. So I thought shinies could be one of those 4 main colors. And when I found the blue-nosed Dugtrio, I'm like, I would have loved the yellow one. Come on. And I really just kind of went down this rabbit hole, realized that's not how shinies work. Tried to go on, was it GTS, where you could, like, trade with people. I saw someone put up, like, a shiny, I think it was a shiny Mankey, and they were asking for, like, a level 96 Wurmple. I'm like, can I get a 96 Wurmple in time to trade? I couldn't, but I learned about the Poke Radar method and shiny hunting, and I just really was introduced to the online community, and it was a really interesting, one thing led to another, and it all began with shiny Pokemon.
A level 96 Wurmple. specifically.
Yes.
Oh my goodness me. Now, for anyone familiar, A, that's a very high level. The maximum level of Pokemon is level 100. But B, Wurmple is, I don't know, if you're more familiar with Generation 1 Pokemon, then that's the equivalent of a Caterpie, say, or a Weedle at level 96. So leveling up, really going through that grind. And, it's not a Pokemon that can battle that well, so it's going to take you a long old while. But that's fun. And you find this Dugtrio. That's fascinating that there was that magazine that had Zubat in 4 different colors. I'm wondering if you even dreamt that.
I've thought that. I've seen like comments of people when I've mentioned this like randomly in the past 15 years, be like, I think I saw that too. I don't know if any of us saw that. I think it's probably a collective, like, a memory of a memory of a memory.
Yeah.
But I think it really points to something that I actually am somewhat passionate about. And, people, myself included in the past, talk about shiny Pokemon being devalued. No, it's good that people can find shinies a little bit easier, because then the casual fan can be brought into something a little bit deeper in Pokemon. It's like competitive Pokemon becoming more and more accessible. It's something that makes me really happy, because the shiny Pokemon actually is what led me eventually to competitive and learning about EVs and IVs and all of these pretty complex things. So I think Pokemon continuing to make these things a little bit easier, or just like they're talked about more within the games, I just really love that. So you're not remembering some, weird guidebook that's giving you very bad information. It's like, oh yeah, of course, Zubat shiny is green and Dugtrio shiny is very easy to fail.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's sort of shiny hunting in itself is, I would say, especially post Generation 6, has kind of become a different activity from what it was before. Because as you say, it's kind of more endorsed now within the games themselves. Whereas originally, shiny Pokemon, these Pokemon that are different colors and sparkle on encounter, vanishingly rare but highly priced for that rarity. They were barely even referenced in the games, which made them so much more mysterious and so much more exciting to find. And just to briefly unpack their IVs and EVs, individual values or effort values, either the sort of native stats that a Pokemon have when you catch them, versus the way you can train them to optimize those stats. So, Pokemon Platinum is what we're talking about here. Roughly how old were you at that point?
It was middle school, and I think I was 13. I try to look back and figure it out. Like the beginning of my Pokemon journey, there's just so many things that kind of happen one after another after another. From Pokemon Yellow to Platinum, I was playing Pokemon when I really didn't know what I was doing. I was not winning the game. I would restart over and over again. So this was really when everything kind of clicked, and I just got so much more into it. And that I'm pretty confident is the age range.
Mm-hmm. Sure. But your first game actually was Pokemon Yellow.
Yes. Yeah, my first game was Yellow. I played that with my dad. He'd put his hands over mine and he was really playing, but I felt like I was playing enough, and we could put that Yellow cartridge on Stadium so I could play with the team he got on the N64, which was fun. Pokemon Gold was another. I didn't know what was happening, and eventually the battery died. So once the Game Boy batteries would die, I couldn't save it. So I'd play through the first, I think, 4 or 5 gyms just on repeat. Like, I want to play Pokemon today. Let's see how long the batteries last.
Wow. That really sowed the seeds, didn't it? That paved the way for you becoming as hardcore a fan as you are now. Okay, but it was Pokemon Platinum that really just started to speak to you on that fundamental level. Would you say that at that age you had other friends around you at school and so on that were also into Pokemon? Could you share that passion?
No, and that's actually what really got me into this world, and I'll talk about that even more later on. I had one good friend, and when we get to my first Pokemon, he'll actually come up, where I could talk to him about Pokemon, but my interest, it was I played a lot of Pokemon. I absolutely love playing sports. I was huge into basketball and just watching football and all of that, and then I played shooter games like Halo. I didn't really have this, it wasn't all these interests circling the same as other Pokemon fans I knew. And Pokemon at that time really had hit a big dip. I remember people talking about is it going to be the end of Pokemon after Heart Gold, Soul Silver? When we get to Gen 5, they soft rebooted Pokemon. They're like, hey, you remember this Pokemon you love? What if it was kind of different and then better? You could only get the Gen 5 Pokemon. The cards exploded again then, but I remember in Gen 4, we'd go to a store and we could buy Gen 3 packs. My, now wife, then girlfriend, we've been together a long time. We were high school sweethearts. She bought me first edition fossil packs as a high schooler. They were cheap. No one needed these things. No one wanted them. It was crazy. So back then, it was a much different time, and I think it's hard to really explain to people who grew up through Pokemon Go and every person they know played the game. I didn't have much of a desire to bring up Pokemon. I didn't want to know what other people thought of that game. I didn't want to hear like that's a child's game. Let's move up to bigger things, because the beauty of Pokemon is both of us enjoy it. You know, we're still young men, but when I go and see family, my uncle loves Pokemon Go. Yeah. You know, like I have my one of her aunts loves Pokemon Go. Any person can really enjoy all these different things in Pokemon. So it didn't talk to a lot of people about it, but thankfully that changed.
Agreed, yeah. Well, you said there that this friend of yours would come up when you talked about your first Pokemon. I think it's time to do that. So as a reminder, everybody, the aim here is not for John to build the most competitively viable team in any way. It's just the Pokemon that have been the most special to John over the years, and he can define that for himself in whichever way he would like. He's decided on them in advance. I have no idea what they are, so let's discover together. John, what's going to be the first Pokemon on your dream team?
The first Pokemon has to be Machamp. And I always loved this Pokemon. I mean, I started in Gen 1. I really liked fighting types. But there's just something about Machamp that I really loved. Now, I didn't love trying to beat the game and it only had 4 fighting moves and I couldn't hit ghost types. That wasn't great. But there was something about it being hidden behind a trade, you know, that really got to me. And it had this like, you know, mysterious aura almost like I want to have this so badly. So I remember when I was way more of a casual fan, I'd play through the games, like I said earlier, like Gold wouldn't save. I was not beating that game. You know, there's a few times where I'd get to the Elite Four and my team was just so under-leveled and like, I don't really want to grind up anymore. Let's restart. But I remember Leaf Green. I had this one file where I just said, screw it, Charizard, we're going through. Me and you, buddy. Let's have fun. And before I go against the Elite Four, I have my buddy Tommy over. And he was willing to trade me a Machoke to, you know, get me a Machamp. And the only thing I had on my team was a Charizard. I'm like, I'll give you my Charizard. He's like, you're going to give me your like level 60 something Charizard? I'm like, yeah, I really, really, really want Machamp. And he really looked at me like I was insane. I don't know. Whatever. I can restart again and get another Charizard if I want. I got that Machamp. It became my first level 100 Pokemon I ever had. Beat the game with it. Loved everything about it. Got so many ribbons on it. It unfortunately, with the Doug Trio, eventually was lost to time as my sister reset the game and saved because she wanted to play Pokemon and be like me. And I had to tell her that's not it's all gone, Ashley. Maybe we just get you your own game next time. But that Machamp, it followed me for a while, and it was just really special. I think it really was kind of the moment I started to get deeper into Pokemon, you know, beating the game, getting a first level 100, and just trying to find more things to do. So, could not make a dream team without Machamp. And I couldn't bring up Machamp without saying how upset I still am that they made Conkeldurr and then they gave it Mach Punch and Drain Punch. Machamp's known to punch faster than any Pokemon, but no, it's not going to get Mach Punch. No. It's going to be... It's upsetting. I don't like it. I'm going to stick with Machamp. I don't care if Conkeldurr's much better. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm sticking with Machamp.
Good. We love to hear it. You've got to stand by your favorites, although I would say that, but you did just trade away your beloved first partner Charizard to your friend.
Well, it was for my favorite, you say.
It's true, yeah. We can argue it both ways. Machamp, so what do you think it was about the fighting type that spoke to you?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, Gen 1, hey, I'm nostalgic for them, but I mean, they said, what about this goldfish? Let's put a horn on it. You know, what about this seal? What if it was a seal? I didn't know until I was much older that Dugong was a real animal. So there's such an interesting variety of like, you know, Pokemon that are very similar to animals, but then, you know, Machamp, this like really cool Pokemon, the 4 arms, it looks very powerful. It looks very strong. I don't know in Gen 1 if we had a ton of Pokemon that looked incredibly strong. We had one Dragon type, and I love Dragonite. When I think of Dragonite, I think of the Gen 1 Pokemon card where it has the mailbag. He's a happy guy. A very happy fella. You know, Gyarados is incredibly cool, but it's very easy to get. So, I don't know. I think there's just something about those 4 trade Evos, or especially 3 of them, with Gengar, Poliwrath. Well, wait, no, Poliwrath, the water. I always used to think Poliwrath was a trade.
So it's Gengar, Machamp, Alakazam,
Alakazam.
and
there's a fourth I always forget.
Gengar,
And I
Machamp,
always think it's
Alakazam.
Poliwrath for some reason.
Golem. It's Golem.
That's what I always confuse Poliwrath and Golem because I like frogs. That's what it is. I'm just like, Poliwrath, cooler. So that's the trade, Evo. Golem, why would I trade to get a Golem? It's fun. I've made that mistake since I was like, I don't know, 6, 7. Like that's
That is
I love
so
that's
funny.
coming up.
Yeah, so do I, because really they could not be more different. I sort of see where you're coming. I mean, Golem isn't really it's more like lizard-like, but I sort of see where it's got teeth, but I sort of see where you're coming from there. Okay, I totally know what you mean though about the mystique of the Pokemon locked behind trade evolutions. I think it's similar for me. My favorite Pokemon is Kingdra, and it's one that I never had access to because I didn't have anyone I could trade with. / it's very hard to get the Dragon Scale in Generation 2. But yeah, Machamp, Mac punching its way onto your team. Seems like the perfect first Dream Team member to me. So fantastic. And if you're enjoying the chat with PM7, everybody, please do like and subscribe. Really mean a huge amount. Work very hard on this podcast. Goes such a long way, as John can attest to. But we've got so much more conversation to have. So let's go over from there now into creating a Pokemon website.
Yes, a very interesting beginning. Now, the beginning of this was a little bit, it wasn't the best time in my life when I made this website. There was like a lot of things that happened at the same time. You know, my parents ended up getting divorced. My first girlfriend of a year, we ended up breaking up. And that was, those two together, I wasn't doing great. And then I was not only supposed to make the basketball team at my high school, I was supposed to be a starter. And it was this very weird, like, politicky type thing where I didn't make the team, even though I was the best player on the freshman team, started all the games, started on the summer league JV team. This weird, like, we want to put football players on instead of basketball. It was very bizarre. I asked, why didn't I make the team? And the reasons I gave was like, well, why did my friend not make it? Because he does exactly what no good answer, like no good end. It was just, okay, you, Mr. Sad Sack, you have nothing to do after school for the next few months, and you expected to have practice, have games. So in that I needed something to fill that time. I've always been a very creative person. And I had seen someone for like their Halo 3 clans back in the day make a website on like webs.com. And I was just enamored with that. I'm like, well, I don't play Halo like that. I don't have a clan of people where we're going online and doing all these competitive things. But I love Pokemon, and I don't really want to talk to people at school about Pokemon. Maybe I could meet people online through this. There had been different, websites that I'd seen with forums. Like, what if I made my own Pokemon forum? Now, I didn't really care as much about the forum. I definitely didn't care as much about the YouTube side of it. I just wanted to create a website. I just liked the idea of creating something. And I remember trying to come up with a name for a good, 6 hours. My mom finally came down and said, you just got to go with a name. I never liked the name. There's a reason PM7 has been very much changed. But the only thing I could think of was Pokemon? I don't know, man. I just want to make the website. I don't care about the name. Didn't realize how long that'd stick. Thankfully, I learned you can still change the branding very far in your career. And, if you do well enough, people won't remember that you were Pokemon or Pokemon 7. It doesn't matter. But I made the websites to get more people onto the website. Okay, we have to make a YouTube channel for it. And that really just accelerated everything. I somehow got invited to a legendary only Pokemon tournament, and with the help of someone I met, was able to win that tournament. And that was the first video on this channel. And the next videos were shiny hunting. These shinies I found with the PokeRadar hunting method. And I always found that really fascinating, as early Pokemon YouTube was very geared towards competitive Pokemon, and there wasn't a lot of people who looked kindly on shiny hunting. It was kind of like you're one or the other. It was a little odd. But for me, I started pretty legitimately with, okay, I'm going to do this battle. Now, hey, look at this cool shiny I found. And between all of that, it was just this deep desire to create that really landed me to make the website. And it became a lot more about expressing myself, through Pokemon than any other part of it. So eventually, while that website didn't really last a long time, it really transitioned me into being a Pokemon YouTuber, and here I am. So clearly it stuck.
Sorry to hear about the difficult time you had when you were younger, but I'm very pleased to hear that you did find refuge in the website and the YouTube channel that you created. So roughly how old would you have been at this point?
That would have been sophomore year of high school. So I think that was 15, 16, probably, I think 15, about to turn 16.
Mm-hmm, sure. How quickly did it move from website to YouTube channel?
I'd say pretty quickly, within a few months. It was actually like pretty interesting. I did some of the shiny hunting stuff, and eventually, stumbled into this world of Pokemon YouTubers doing these competitive battles and recording the battle and doing post commentary. I never could figure out how they could get the quality to look so good. So I had this setup where I'd get my DS, I'd like put it on the ground, I'd stack up textbooks, take my like iPod Touch, like have it there, put more on top. So the iPod Touch is like staring down at the DS. There's like the versus recorder. So I'm, watching the battle and commentating it. While the commentaries weren't good, I have a really, really good memory for that stuff. So I was able to remember, what I was thinking in the moment, why I did this. And it was fun. I think one of the things that was a really big like kind of blessing to push me into YouTube more, but at the time devastating, is there's this one, old YouTube, the banners used to be on the sides rather than at the top. And there was one person who ended up, I'm pretty sure, becoming like a pretty huge YouTuber, like eventually, I think like Phoenix Master something. And they were making free backgrounds for people. That was like kind of a popular thing. So I ended up getting this like super high quality free background on the side. And this YouTuber saw my channel, liked the background, and gave me a shout out. What they really did was like bought one of my videos. So it got like a few hundred views. I got up to 700 subscribers. I was so excited. I'm like, oh my God, this is my break. I might have a chance to like meet these other big Pokemon YouTubers. By big YouTubers, I mean like 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers, get into this scene. The next video I uploaded gets like 20 views again and like one comment. I'm like, what happens? And, eventually I kind of came to this decision. If I really want to keep going, I think I need to make another channel and focus on the channel rather than like the website and the channel to promote the websites. So weirdly, kind of getting botted in that way kind of pushed me to, I really do love this YouTube thing. Let me try on a different channel and actually try to grow this channel more specifically on the competitive side. So it's funny to think back. A lot of interesting things kind of happened to push me there, but it worked out.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it just goes to show the power of being involved in something early on, essentially. Yeah. You were there in the very early stages of YouTube. And of course, it's paved the way for where you are now. You're just constantly learning and growing, evolving with YouTube as it evolved. Yeah. Fascinating. And then, so interesting also to hear about this sort of discrepancy between shiny hunting and competitive back then. It kind of strikes me as sort of a proto High School Musical situation, where it's like you either do one or the other. You don't cross paths. Whereas nowadays it's far more, do what you want. It's far more accepting of all.
I could give you a 3-hour podcast on the weird politics of old Pokemon YouTube. There was huge drama when the first Pokemon YouTubers got partnered and could make money. Like, that was a scandal. You did it for the love of the game, you see. You did not do it to make money. But that even transitioned into, like, you don't make videos to try to go viral. You are truly doing it for the love of the game. And I think that really kind of impacted the Pokemon scene for a very long time, where now there's a lot of pretty big Pokemon YouTubers. Pokemon didn't just get popular now. It's just very interesting of like whoever is leading the scene and whoever's at the top, it can really dictate where we go. It's very interesting to look back there, and it really impacted the different decisions and ways, I went, and I just really loved creating. So I was kind of fine to go with that at different points, but I don't really get into drama or big arguments. So when I say I butted heads with people, it wasn't anything serious, but I was usually on the side of like, well, what if we, tried to get people to watch our videos? And that's sometimes like, I don't know about that, buddy. And I think the shiny hunting stuff kind of was on the side of that of like, well, I do like shiny hunting, but maybe I'll do that on the side. Maybe, maybe I don't need to talk with everyone about this all the time.
Sure. Wow, fascinating. Yeah. My final question on this point is just, was it tough juggling schooling as well as having this online career with website and YouTube?
I would say Yes, but it wasn't much more difficult than, always having a sport and, school. School is always a really big deal in my household. My parents were really strict about school. I'm very self-motivated and very hard on myself. So I had a lot of like AP classes. There were like college level classes in high school. So I had like a pretty stacked like workload. I usually had some sort of, I did cross country, then I did basketball the rest of the seasons, or I did, both at the same time. So once I got rid of, like basketball every day after school to, okay, now we're doing schoolwork and the YouTube stuff. It was like the same workload, but it was always a lot. It was always too much, but it wasn't, I wasn't adding a ton on, if that makes sense. It was always kind of, I think what the change is people would be like, is this really a good use of time? But the reality is if I wasn't doing that, I'd be doing some other silly creative thing, So it really didn't matter. I would have been doing something within this realm.
Yeah, well, I guess one final quick extra question on this point. Because as with all my guests, there's always so much to explore and far more than can ever be done in one single podcast episode. But where do you think your creative streak comes from?
I think it really does come from my mom. She was always really big on like creating scrapbooks, and it was very clear. Like she wanted obviously to get the memories down, but it was okay. How do we make each page look, so special and match the theme and what we did? And they would get better and better and better as time went on. And at this point, she's kind of followed my like I followed her footsteps. She's followed my footsteps and has a YouTube channel as a math teacher and puts a ton of time into that. And there's just always been creativity and how do you kind of link it, back to work. And there's a perfectionist streak with both of us where it'd be nice if the creativity could just be creativity. But there was always a lot of like arts and crafts that she was doing in different ways. And while I didn't really kind of expect to go this way, if I really think back, I was always making like, I'm going to make my own Pokemon series. I'm going to make a card series. I'm going to make comics. I'm going to make a book. I remember like one thing that really stood out that was just so random is like the McDonald's had like little Neopet toys you could get. And I remember like, okay, we have these. Everyone loves them. What are we going to do with them? I'm going to take cardboard and I'm going to like create a city for them and glue these things together just because I wanted to create something. So there's just been this drive within me always to just create, whether it's something that is shared with others or I just thought this was fun. Let's just go do it. And that has really, really obviously influenced my channel. And at times I can, go a little bit too far of like, okay, this is a crazy idea. Let's just go for this when maybe something a little bit simpler or, a broader audience would understand it. But that's why I don't mind shinies being a little bit easier. I can go back to the older games and hunt them. But what I've noticed so few people will do is like, well, turn it into a game. If I can find a ridiculous amount of shinies quick, we're changing what we can do with this. Let's just, it's now I have a new, kind of canvas to work with. And I think that's what gets me most excited as a creator with every game. Every game will have unique things that I can be creative with. There's a lot of other things I'm excited about, obviously the Pokemon, but I love the challenge, the creative challenge. Like, okay, what can I do with this? So, I think that also for my mom of like, okay, here's a challenge. Let's really tackle it. If it's too easy, why do it?
Really fascinating. Yeah. I mean, again, we were talking about how you were there with YouTube from the beginning, but also that means you were there from a time when, being a creator wasn't really a thing. It wasn't really seen as...
it was not cool.
It didn't exist. Well, maybe there's that too, but it was clearly the job that came to fruition just at the right time for you because it's something you long wanted to do. You and me both, just always some kind of activity, be it making mods out of plasticine or whatever on the go. Really fascinating to hear that. And it's interesting you mentioned your mum is now content creating with being a maths teacher. Just yesterday for the show, I spoke to content creator Tom Rocks Maths, who's based here in the UK, who loves Pokemon, but also, creates wacky maths content. So, all these overlaps. Great. Well, anyway, now it's time to discover who's going to be joining Machamp on your dream team.
Yeah, normally I wouldn't add a legendary, but if it's a dream team, and we're going to talk about the website, I have to bring up specifically Shiny Rayquaza. That was the number one thing I had to have in the banner when I got into shinies. I had to go through all of them. What do they all look like? And that was very exciting. If you are someone who's never really dove into shiny Pokemon, it's like you get to discover Pokemon all over again. Like, oh, that's what that looks like. That's what that looks like. And I just was enamored with shiny Rayquaza. As a kid, and even as I got older, I didn't like the idea of legendaries. Like, I hate that me and you can go get the only one legendary in existence. I could roll up with a team of all legendaries. Like, this isn't that special. I'd rather win with these, more underrated Pokemon. But Rayquaza is just so cool, unshiny, shiny, like stat-wise and battle, like everything about it, I just really loved. And, it really started that journey. And I think as I had so many, different directions I went with my Pokemon content, I just love going back and thinking shiny Rayquaza really started it. On one of my channels, the first time I hit 50K, I shiny hunted for shiny Rayquaza, and that was a really big deal. And it's just always come back to that, come back to really cool shinies. It's an easy answer when people ask, what's your favorite shiny? What's your favorite legendary? And I couldn't not have it on the Dream Team.
So, what are you saying was this first iteration of Shiny Rayquaza for you? Did you chose it for banners on your YouTube?
Yeah, on the website. Yeah.
Okay, on the website. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was also probably on the YouTube banner, but because I'm such an old YouTuber, I mean, I watched the banners change like 10 times in the beginning. Like, there hasn't been as much flux, but like, we didn't have thumbnails back in the day. I remember I knew someone who would find the specific frame YouTube would pick for the thumbnail, so he would have one frame that would be the thumbnail. And I mean, it was just, things were so different, and at a certain point you could click things in the banner, so there was a lot of flux with those banners. But for the website, there was just one iteration of the website. There was one, the theming of that, was kind of stable. And actually, when I made the channel that I currently use, PM7, I was kind of going back and forth what do I want to do with the branding, and I started with the idea of a like Knights and Dragons theme with like Aegislash and Rayquaza. So I kind of went back and forth with these types of things. It didn't really come to fruition. It was more of a Twitch project if I streamed a little bit more than making YouTube videos. But it's just something that's kept coming up from, the first creative thing I made with Pokemon to even the newest. So it has to be here.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Shiny Rayquaza, welcome to PM7's Dream Team. Now we will drag an ascent from there into, going to a PokeMoshPit tournament.
Yes. Now, this is going way back in the day of Pokemon YouTube, but as a fan of Pokemon YouTube, PokeMoshPit was just this place where the biggest Pokemon creators would get to upload. And for me, it just felt like if you were anyone, you uploaded a video on PokeMoshPit. Someone that most of us know and we all love, Joey Pokeaim. I remember meeting him. Well, not meeting him, but being aware of him on PokeMoshPit. I sent you a battle of him battling against my friend Superblaw, who is one of my best friends. I had him over last year to spend some time together. We still work together. We've done so much together. And that was a battle 13 years ago of these two, battling it out. And it was just this really cool thing that I really aspired to be a part of. And I saw at one point they were hosting a live tournament. I hadn't really heard much about VGC, and sometimes I think it would have been nice if I had heard about VGC earlier, if there was more of a presence online, because I'm getting old. I don't want to relearn competitive to the completely different one. I'm jealous of all the people getting into Pokemon now. They know go that way, doubles, yeah, go do that. Don't be wasting your time with this silly singles stuff. But I was all in on singles battling, and there was this live tournament, and kind of on a whim, I talked to my mom about it, and we decided to go. Me, my sister, and my friend Tommy that I traded the Charizard to. We ended up going, and funnily enough, I don't know why my grandmother was down, and she was so excited to bring us there. So it was like this really wholesome thing where my grandmother and my mom were just funnily supportive enough, brought us to this tournament. I think went shopping, and it was just tournament in New Jersey. So many of the PokeMoshPit creators were there, and I was able to join one of the singles tournaments they did. I had I haven't said that. I won't reveal any more Dream Team members. I had one of the future Dream Team members on that team. It absolutely carried me, and I came in second in the tournament. Won a little bit of money, and for a while that was kind of something I clung on to, a little bit of validation, like, hey, these are real people in this Pokemon scene. It's not stranger danger online, like these are real, just nerds playing competitive Pokemon. Can meet them here, joined a tournament, earned a little bit of money. Like, I've actually gotten pretty good at this battling thing. Like, this is a real thing. And I remember having a chance to meet an online friend, my buddy George. It was the first time I met anyone I'd met online in real life. And that was a very cool thing of like, hey, like, this is a real friendship. It's not just an online friendship. Like, obviously we're meeting online. This is a real relationship. I hope to someday be able to meet you at a tournament. That'd be wonderful. And I think back then it was much different telling someone like, hey mom, I met this guy on the internet. His name's George. Like, what? What are you talking about? A much different thing. It was like, hey, here's this nice kid George, and my grandmother still asks about him today. It was very sweet. I got to talk to I think one of the biggest Pokemon YouTubers at the time, who I think at this point has like 1 million subscribers, ended up doing like Arc Evolved or whatever that game was, King Daddy DMAC, and he gave us a lot of advice, and it was so kind, battled us, and it was a really, really special experience. I haven't had too many times where I've been able to go out and meet a lot of different Pokemon, fans and creators, but to be in that spot and kind of have this early journey validated and showcase not only, okay, like this battling thing, I've gotten really good at it, and, I earned a little bit of money, like it's a legitimate thing, like these are real people, real creators. It validated so much and was such a nice push to keep going. Not like, oh, I can do this as a job or for a living, but like this is a real thing people do, and I want to be a part of it. So it was a really, really cool thing. And it wasn't very like me. I didn't tell people at school I played Pokemon, or I did not tell people about my YouTube channel. Did not want that circulating around the high school. So to just kind of go out on a whim, like, yeah, I'm going to go be around all these strangers and put myself out there. That was really cool and a really, really wonderful experience.
Yeah. Did you feel for that reason at school sometimes like you were almost leading a double life? Were you talking to anyone about it at school?
I think what really got me is I had one, like, not like a very good friend, but I'd say like a school friend who had a Call of Duty YouTube channel that he was a little bit more open about. And it'd be talked about. People weren't always the nicest. And I was like, man, why did you tell everyone? And like, I was a little envious of like, you're owning it. Good for you. I am not doing that. So I think, I remember years and years and years later, I heard Ludwig talk about a big, just general creator talk about a big YouTube advice of like, if you want to be a YouTuber, you need to be able to be confident enough to tell your friends and family, and like the people at school that what you do, so they can give you like advice. Is it good? Is it bad? And it's just, you're out there, you're being yourself, you're not hiding it. If you want the world to see, you need the people around you to see it first. Those are the people that know you. So I think, looking back at that, I was finding a way to express at least this, creative side of myself outside of kind of those social connections. But I think there was still enough like anxiety and insecurity there that I wasn't really fully ready to, open myself up to that world. And I think that, I think that was a really important part of the journey.
Totally understandable at that age, all sorts of things in your mind. I'm very pleased, though, and this is the theme that comes out from this show, that people, the sooner they will own it and lean in, like your friend who had the Call of Duty YouTube channel did, the quicker the path to happiness, essentially.
Yes.
Now, for anyone who's unfamiliar, and I'm sure there'll be quite a few, actually, because PokeMoshPit really is going back, what, in basic terms, in a nutshell, was PokeMoshPit?
So it was a community channel. We don't really have, I don't know if we have like any of those left, but it used to be like some of the biggest channels would be this big, combined effort. And there would be a lot of like PokeMoshPit directors, these bigger creators that were on like the team, and they would submit, videos. Instead of uploading them on their own personal channels, they'd submit them to the community channel. The community channel was almost always, I think it was bigger than like every other Pokemon YouTuber's channel, except for like maybe one. Still a creator today, Hayden, and he's doing Wi-Fi battles again. It's very exciting. I remember being such a big fan in the PokeMoshPit days. Him, Joey, that wasn't really much of a creator, but we're still around. Some of us older guys are still here. But it was, every day you could expect a different creator. And that was really cool because as a fan of competitive Pokemon, I could go and watch every video my favorite creator posted, but it was a great way of like, oh wow, this is a new person on the scene. I've never watched this person. Let me give this person a chance. So it was a really, instead of having a YouTube algorithm, because we really didn't have an algorithm back then, it was just your subscription feed. So instead of having an algorithm, you'd go to this channel and you could find new favorites. And I guess it makes sense now with the algorithm being so powerful. We don't really need channels like that, but that was a staple of the entirety of the Gen 4 Pokemon YouTube era and the Gen 5 Pokemon YouTube era. Really was a community channel. And at least it seemed from the outside looking in, like all of the big creators really knew each other. I don't think they all really liked each other. And the more I learned, it was like maybe it wasn't as kumbaya, but you know, it was cool to see. It was really cool to see so many people come together. And it felt like the Pokemon community, it was a more strong knit community. And it's why I wanted to go to the tournament. Like, wow, you know, there's going to be so many people here. It was really, really cool. So, yeah, definitely a product of its time, but very special.
And I mean, the fact that you came second at that tournament, absolutely incredible. I think, yeah, what you experienced there is a very early version of, I mean, something that's far more common now. You know, you'll get involved in a Discord community, say, and they'll inspire you to go to your first, say, regional level event, and then all of a sudden you're meeting these friends in person. But you're so right, yeah, back then it was, you know, the days of MSN and so on, far more seen as this strange, oh, okay, they actually exist, you're going to meet them in person, but they're currently just a name to you online. Definitely see where some nerves would creep in around that. And yeah, of course, the Joey that you mentioned, PokeMoshPit, MD, I have featured on this very podcast as well. There'll be a card that people can check out to watch that towards the end of the episode. Fascinating. Okay, and so we're now leaning more into the competitive side. So once you went to that tournament, you got such a good finish, did that light a fire to then devote yourself more to that side of Pokemon? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think for better or worse, I mean, Pokemon back then, when you got into it, it was competitive. There wasn't really other content, you know? People were not making other types of videos. And actually, we'll kind of skip over. I have so many things I could talk about. I remember making, I fell down a Pokemon theory rabbit hole, and I made a few videos on Pokemon theories, and it was really like kind of looked down upon from my competitive friends. Because they're just more like, it's for a general audience. It's not like it's not competitive, you know? It's not this like, okay, I gotta be the best and prove and blah, 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 blah. And through a series of events, I left that channel, had a new one. Had no idea the video blew up. Got like 900,000 views. Like, gosh, I mean, back in 2012, 2013, like just not normal for Pokemon content. And I didn't know for the longest time because I just moved forward. I was so focused on competitive. And it was very funny. There was kind of two paths I could have gone of making content that ended up being a lot more similar to an eventual friend, M&J TV, around the same time he started, or I could be trying way too hard in competitive singles battles to, you know, like a few thousand viewers. And I'm happy with the decision I made, but it's very funny of the two of us. Like, okay, like viral videos talking about like, oh, I don't know, maybe Metapod should have evolved into Venomoth, and then Venonat should evolve into Butterfree. Look at them. I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's true. Wow, I'd never thought about that. I can totally see it with Venonat. I mean, the eyes and the color, and then Metapod into Venomoth.
Yeah.
Oh, the eyes. Yeah, I can see that again.
Yeah. And like the horns. Yeah.
Okay.
You slap that on a thumbnail before you really know what thumbnails really are, and all of a sudden you accidentally made your most viral video for quite a long time. You're like, I don't know, man. I'm doing competitive still.
Wow, fascinating. Okay, well, let's flood it over from there now into what's going to be the third Pokemon in your dream team alongside Machamp and Shiny Rayquaza.
Yes, this is going to be my now still favorite Pokemon, Mamoswine. Now, you know, I talked about Pokemon Platinum being like my favorite game. I played it so much, you know, I'd loved Machamp for so long. And I always used to say like 51% Mamoswine, 49% Machamp. I still really love Machamp, but I've always loved elephants, and woolly mammoths are so cool. So we get Mamoswine. I loved the 4th gen evolutions. It was such a cool idea of like, wow, you know, we had these in Gen 2, but, you know, some of them like Kingdra was great. Loved Politoed. Like these things are sweet. But there was also like, there's a lot of baby forms. It was kind of all over. Gen 2 was an interesting generation, all over the place. Gen 4, they're like, hey, we're really going to give you a lot of evolutions, and most of them will be really good. It turns out Mamoswine was really good competitively. In my first competitive battle ever with the same friend, Tommy, you know, he keeps popping up. I was getting destroyed. It was so bad. I clearly had not learned much. I was down 5-1, and Mamoswine just destroyed the rest of his team. And then I remember getting into like the singles world and competitively, the first like really good team that I had where I was beating most people. It was a team that really featured Mamoswine. I wanted to try a weather team in the 5th gen days, you know, because weather lasted forever, and that was just, you could not escape weather. So I remember I had such a small understanding of competitive. I'm like, well, you can't have Pokemon weak to Sandstorm on a sand team. So I need like this and that and this and that. And the team was not good, but I would just put a choice band on Mamoswine, an item that would, to explain a little bit further. Once I get competitive, especially my channel now, people are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, trust me, it all makes sense. It's an item that boosts your Pokemon's attack, but you're stuck into one move. I didn't really care because I would just click Ice Shard. The Ice Shard would be so absurdly strong with Mamoswine's like 130 attack stat. You go first, of course, and you're just obliterating things. Or at that point, I think Mamoswine had the second strongest Earthquake in all of Pokemon outside of Groudon. And I was not playing in formats where Groudon was running around. So it just, such a cool Pokemon. I love it design-wise. I love, what it's based on. And competitively, that thing carried me for a while. And man, I can leak it now because it never happened. It was years ago. But, I talk with my good buddy Wolf quite often. And he was telling me about, like, I might be thinking about Mamoswine for a world team. Like, you got to do it. You got to do it. And he told me, like, no, we've moved on. I'm like, no, come on, Wolf. Come on. So I keep trying to push it. Like, guys, I know we're a few generations in, there's a power creep, but what about Mamoswine? Hear me out.
I feel like that's Wolf's way of telling you that you're going to have to be the one that flies that flag. You're going to have to be the one turning up to the tournament, bringing Mamoswine.
Yeah, and maybe someday. I mean, I don't like losing, so it'd be so devastating. Like, man, I got to replace Mamoswine.
Although, ground and ice, that's a very rare combination. Best. And it does cover so many things offensively. Yes. It's just also, it then suffers defensively, I guess, as a result. But, wow.
A thick fat.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So that it takes less damage from fire released. Would you say that as soon as you saw Mamoswine, it was love at first sight? That was it? That was your favorite Pokemon?
I'd say it was like, oh wow, this is in the top 3. And it was the competitive side that really had it overtake Machamp. But when I saw it, like, this is so cool. I had to take a little bit to warm up to some of the 4th gen Evos. Like, I really liked Electabuzz and Magmar. I mean, I've been playing since, Yellow. And in those games, I mean, those guys were so rare. And like, now one of them has like a cannon for an arm. And like, what's going on here? I didn't really know how to feel about some of these guys. And it took a bit to warm up to them. But I like Swinub. I like Piloswine. But it felt like they were incomplete. So Mamoswine was perfect. So that definitely, it sold me immediately.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah. And of course, Wolf is another guest that I've had on this show as well. So that will be towards the end of the episode. And yeah, I know that Ross Gilbert, Pokemon trading card game caster and content creator PTCG Radio, will love to hear you talking about Mamoswine. Also, their favourite Pokemon. Fascinating to see how all of these things link up. Okay, yeah, choice ban, of course, Ice Shard always going first. And yeah, just to expand on weather these days, that lasts for a minimum of 5 turns, weather conditions on the field. So Sandstorm will chip away at any Pokemon that isn't rock, ground, or steel type at the end of each turn. But back then, weather would just be infinite. It wouldn't expire after those 5 turns. And so, it could really wreak havoc. Okay, well, Mamoswine, welcome to the Dream Team. Let's hop on our Mamoswine, Generation 6 style now. And we'll stomp over from there into joining the 2nd season of the GBA.
Yes, I mean, hey, 6th generation, this is when this really started. The GBA, what is that? Well, there was this crazy idea that I saw one of my favorite YouTubers come up with, Magnitude. It was Pokemon Draft League. And it's really just like, we're taking American football, we're taking Pokemon, boom. And I think it really started where he talked sports with a few Pokemon fans, I think on his drive to work, and those people ended up being in the first league, and it all came together. And I was enamored watching it. What the GBA was it was 8 creators, and they'd make a team, and they'd draft Pokemon. So all the Pokemon were available, and okay, well, I want Mamoswine first. It's off the board, no one else can get it. And, I just love everything about it. Every week there's 2 matchups. There's a regular season. The teams that did the best make the playoffs, single elimination. And then, we get a championship. And this was something that I felt like singles didn't really have. And, at the time, VGC just wasn't as prevalent, at least as a YouTuber and someone watching. I wasn't seeing it everywhere. So to see this more competitive with a champion at the end and a second place, a third place, and it was a lot more contained. I love the history of it, and I love sports. I love sports so much. One of my favorite things about my channel working out the way it has is now when I stream and I talk about football, it doesn't go from 40 viewers to 20. I still lose a good amount of people, but I'm not this is actively hurting my career. I can keep going. But there wasn't a lot of that. And to meet all these Pokemon fans who love sports and we could combine it together and just be so nerdy about both of these things, it was amazing. So season 2 is coming up. I had a friend tell me, I can get you into the league. I'm like, really? Oh my God. That would be a dream come true. They kept telling me, I picked a name. I was ready to go. It was going to be amazing. I didn't get in. I was crushed. I think they're kind of leading me along. I never really figured out why, but, unfortunately, there's a little bit of drama that happens week 1 of the league. Someone got, kicked out and they needed someone who desperately wanted to be in the league. I really, really would still like to be in this. So I inherit a team I did not draft. This team had a lot of flaws. Gosh, getting deep into the competitive Pokemon weeds. I mean, this is, I'm still going to go for it. They drafted Rotom Heat purely because they did well the season before with Mega Charizard Y, and Talonflame was good. Now, Talonflame was on our team, so that was not a worry, and I don't think anyone drafted Mega Charizard Y. So I had Rotom Heat on the team, it just didn't fit, it didn't do anything. The team had 1 water resistance, Azumarill. Now, this is back in the days where Scald is everywhere, so I'm like, well, my physically offensive little guy does not want to switch in on Scalds. So this team had all of these flaws. I start off, it was kind of an okay start. I hit a slump, but very slowly. I was the new kid on the block. I was the youngest in the league. We had power rankings of where people were, ranked. And I was win after win after win, getting the top of the power rankings, win my first playoff battle, have a crazy comeback in my next playoff battle, and then I go to the championship as the team that was everyone were rooting against because I was the top team. It was very weird because the team I played against, again, Super Ball, so what I mentioned earlier, my good friend, he had 3 Pokemon that got banned the next season. It's restricted format for VGC. He had 3 of them that were that we should not have allowed them. That was kind of insane. Our bad. They were rooting against me. My best Pokemon was Tracheon. People thought it was the most broken thing in draft because I was dominating with it. It was never good again in the format. I was just very good with it. So it was funny if I lose this and the underdog has the most broken team ever, and it lit this fire of I gotta go and get that championship. And just from then on, just so many different draft leagues, so many different tournaments. And I think the beautiful thing from there, while I could talk about that season, other seasons, and just reminisce, and it was so fun, I met so many incredible friends. We had a group chat in the league where we talk every single day for a summer. It was so fun. It was so cool. I got so close to so many creators. But then I was able to meet so many other people through that. The reason me and Wolf are really good friends is when he eventually, dipped his toes in singles, he deemed me his singles rival, which was very cool. Now, and some of those battles didn't go my way, and I could go. I'm still a little frustrated with some of them. He beat me in a championship. Just Wolfie winning a championship. What's new? Remember one time I lost because I'm Wolfie, he's too good to make this boneheaded play. I need to predict around that. And I asked him after. He's I don't know. I'm what? No, Wolfie, I was about to beat you 6-0, and you made that. What? It very incredible times, but. I met Wolfie through that, and actually, I met M&J TV through Draft League because he was a big fan of Draft like I was, and he wanted to dip his toes into it. Competitive Pokemon, not his thing. We've done many things together, and we don't really do competitive Pokemon because it's too lopsided for me. But it was just this really cool thing for a few generations of Pokemon that brought so many creators together, whether you were very competitive or more of a casual creator. And I think it's something that is missing a little bit with Pokemon now. I'm hoping as we keep moving forward in future titles, I'd love to see more, like, how do we get casual creators of Pokemon back into competitive and doing VGC style stuff? I'd really, really love to see that, because back then there was just so many different leagues, whether it's the most competitive people, you know, the GBA oftentimes would have bigger creators and like more competitive people together, like really casual leagues of just the biggest creators. And it was just this really cool unifying thing that everyone kind of fell in love with. So I just like drafting Pokemon, and you get attached to a certain team, and, you know, like it's like your thing and your journey. But realistically, it's meeting a lot of cool competitive Pokemon players and being a part of a tournament. And we still have that today, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and I love everything about that.
Who knows, with Pokemon Champions on the horizon,
yeah.
maybe there will be that outlet for more casual fans to get involved in competitive. And for anyone unfamiliar, yeah, that's an announced title. We don't know too much about the game at this point, but it seems to have a competitive focus. So stay tuned, we'll have to see. Wonderful that you're continuing to spread your wings here and meet these creators, and really, you know, as you were talking about before, we didn't really have people you could share this passion with. That is, you know, but starting to be turned on its head. So, roughly, how old were you at this point?
I was actually the end of high school, but the majority of my draft league stuff was in college. I remember my sophomore year of college, so 1920, I ended up mostly running the GBA. I was in GBA Season 2. Season 3 was a disaster, and that kind of fell apart. And then as we rebuilt Season 4, I ended up, like, changing a lot of things with draft. Like, okay, how are we going to draft? Let's make it so, like, hey, maybe people who don't know as much, we make the rules a little bit more helpful so that they don't have a really bad team. I remember one person quit, and I will not, say who, but it stemmed from them losing because they didn't have a Pokemon faster than 100 speed. So they were very easily swept, and it was like, yeah, that sucks. Having an entire season where it's like, I'm just losing and losing and losing. You don't want to do that and post that. So that was brutal. How do we make it so that, like, hey guys, let's have an even team across the board, have people not like draft broken things, but also like a little bit more of a YouTube focus. Let's have a channel and have analysts talking about things, a much earlier and much worse version of what you do professionally for Pokemon, which, I tried my hand at how can we build this up, and I'm glad that it's way better now, infinitely better. But I thought that was important. As we've seen, it is important. You want to do a competitive scene, you need to have that stuff, and it really wasn't there. So I wanted to kind of build that stuff up. And I really, for a while, had my YouTube channel take a back seat so I could build up this scene, and I was so passionate about it, and kind of just, it's definitely been a story of my career at different points of I'm so passionate, so creative about this. I would rather kind of push this forward for like the overall group than like really focus on what am I doing myself. And that was definitely a big period of the early college days of doing Pokemon YouTube.
Yeah, I was about to ask where your own YouTube channel would fit into all this, but incredible. And again, this is the backstory of so many creators that people will not be aware of the fact that this channel existed in the first place. You mentioned M&J TV there, and I know that's a collaborator you have worked many, many times with, and incredible to hear that that's where it all started. And now it's time to discover what's going to be Pokemon number 4 on your dream team alongside Machamp, Shiny Rayquaza, and Mamoswine. And actually, just one brief additional comment here. Azumarill, you don't want to switch it in on Scald because it was a physical attacker. That's because Scald has a chance to burn, and the burn status condition reduces the physical attack, just for anyone who wasn't aware of that. But anyway, take it away, your 4th Pokemon.
I did a pretty good job of not mentioning my team name in Draft League, which was very important, and that was the New Orleans Pelipers. And Pelipper will be the 4th member of the stream team. Pelipper is such a funny Pokemon. I never really liked it. But I remember back in the day, me and my friend Numnexus, we had like a few different things that popped up with Pelipper. And for a while, we kept calling it like, I remember we were doing some sort of a battle. And he's like, I'm bringing Choice Scarfed Pelipper, an item like Choice Band. It locks you into one move, but it raises your speed. Pelipper is not a fast Pokemon. Choice Scarfing Pelipper it does not really make sense, especially before it got Drizzle. It was just like, what are we doing here, man? And it was such a funny moment, and it just stuck around, and it became our thing. I think we ended up doing we beat a game only using Pelipper. And when I had to come up with a name, there's the New Orleans Pelicans. That's an NBA team. And I'm like, well, like I want to have a name. Like if we're doing sports, hey, let's make it all. Obviously, like I can't be like saying this is my team. I have no rights on this. I don't have rights on Pokemon. Let's just go for it. We're the New Orleans Bellivers. A lot of people thought I was from New Orleans. I was like, well, no, that's a good name. You got to give me credit for this. But you get so attached to the team. You get attached to the Pokemon on your team. But that logo was just. There's so many people that still know me for that in Draft League. I sometimes forget. I look back at some of the older things I do. I'm like, it wasn't as good as what I'm doing now. This was, it was kind of so much worse. And I can be so much harsher on myself of the quality of the content. But it's so fun to see people bring up like, oh, I remember back in the day, the first season of the New Orleans Pelipers. Are you doing this and doing that? And it really warms my heart. It's very cool. So while there's a few Draft League Pokemon that kind of, stayed with me, and I was always like, I have a, soft spot for them. Azumarill being one of them, I had to put a Lumberry on that thing to go against Melodic in the championship. I had no chance. It was awful. It was brutal. It was terrible. But Pelipper's the one to take the spot. I considered Reuniclus. That ended up being a big fan, or something I was a big fan of in Draft League. I was really known in a much smaller way. Like Wolf, I love hearing about his teams. Go be like, oh, here's a strategy no one's really using right now, or people haven't really seen this Pokemon. And I really love trying to find Pokemon like that. Everyone's like, you are a fool. Why are you using Reuniclus with Regenerator? Use Magic Guard, man. Let's Trick Room, Magic Guard, Calm Mind. I'm saying a lot of things I probably should explain, but we're moving. We don't care about those things. We don't care. Those are bad. Regenerator. It's an ability where every time you switch out, you get some health back. And in Pokemon Draft League, you don't know what Pokemon you're going to face next. So let's slap a Assault Vest on there and raise your special defense. Let's put a Rocky Helmet on there to take physical hits. I had this thing that could always switch, and I could change it depending on the matchup, depending on, who I'd go against. It was reliable. It was my pal. But even though I love Pokemon like that, Pelipper was always the mascot. Pelipper was always number one. And I hoped, prayed, predicted, give Pelipper Drizzle. And they did it. And I was like, wait, what? They actually did it? Wow. Okay, well, Pelipper is now good. Pelipper is a real I keep bringing up Wolf. I love him to death. I'm going to bring him up because I love him. I remember him using Pelipper on some tournament team. Like, Pelipper? Like, what? Now? Currently? And it's crazy. It went from... Nexus, why are you putting a Choice Scarf on that silly bird? It's bad, too. It's still viable today. One ability can change everything. The ability to set up rain automatically. So, it's cool to have been doing Pokemon for so long. Pelipper could become a Pokemon on my dream team, and it's really had quite a glow up over the years. And I love that. I love that Pokemon can keep getting better and better, and new forms, new ability, new move. It's fun.
Yeah. Pelipper being a pioneer, and you're a pioneer in believing in it from such an early point. So Pelipper, welcome to PM7's Dream Team. Now, we'll drizzle from there into creating a new YouTube channel.
Yes. A lot of time passes in between then, but I think this is such a huge, obviously, moment in my life. And it's a story I've definitely told before, but I feel like it wasn't, I feel like I could tell it multiple times in a way that really gets out to more people, as I think a lot of people could take something from it when it comes to just never really giving up. If you have a dream, and with YouTube, I had done it full time for a while out of college. My thought being, well, I'm not going to try this when, I'm in my 30s, I've settled down, I have a family, I have to provide for my family, a stable job. Now let's try the dream. Let's try the dream now. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I don't want to have regrets. So, I was getting by, but I was making as much money as my, then girlfriend was making off of her school loans and med school. And we were both going for a dream. So it worked out, but it wasn't really doing super well. And I hit a point where once I turn 26, I'll be off my parents' health insurance in the state I lived in. So I need to make it work by then, or I need to just move on. So around the time I was turning 25, just kind of looked at everything I had done. And speaking of competitive, I had decided to go into Sword and Shield. Like, I'm just going to put all my eggs in the competitive basket. And Pokemon's like, well, what if you did 3-on-3 singles? We're going to get rid of that 60-minute timer. Try to do a game in 20 minutes. So like, well, I can't. Unshockingly, we saw VGC get more and more popular on YouTube after that. I applaud them for that, but that was kind of devastating for me. I'd really hit a stride. I was making a lot of like competitive guides for Pokemon. I remember doing like a phalanx guide that really blew up, but my wings were clipped. Like, okay, well, I'm not like, I was trying to relearn singles here. I can't just jump into, doubles, and doubles isn't really popular on YouTube. I need to make this work if I want to make it work. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make a new channel. I'm going to just try one more time. I made a channel. I made, I don't know, like $200, $300 a month the next 2 months because I wasn't uploading. I was just researching day after day. Okay, YouTube is now school. How do people do this? A lot of people at this point, we've transported so far in the past. It's 2020. Before everything kind of went crazy and, there's a lot of big YouTubers. I'm like, okay, what does this person do? What does this person do? And I stumbled upon this big podcast Ludwig had done with, I don't remember who, some like Twitch guru at the time, and he just talked about YouTube stuff for like 3-4 hours, and my mind was kind of blown of like, wow, okay, so that's like, this is how you market an idea with a title and a thumbnail, and I was just like, no after no after no, and I'd had all these good ideas. I felt like I had a pretty solid presence on camera, people enjoyed my stuff, but I wasn't getting any of these like creative ideas to go viral. I just didn't know how to package them and get a casual audience to understand what was going on, so made this new channel, learned everything I could about YouTube. I got it partnered, and then I slowly but surely started making these new videos. And I remember at the time I had seen Small Ant come up with these Pokemon videos that were just going crazy viral. And I was looking around, and like every like big Pokemon YouTuber at the time, I'll say zero names, hey, we all have our own opinions. We're like, Pokemon's dead. We can't get any views. We can't make videos on this. Like, it's like this and that, Sword and Shield stinks, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, this dude's getting like 4 million views on a Pokemon video. He's not even a Pokemon creator. Do we have any pride as a community? And I wasn't upset in the slightest with Small Ant. I just felt like, well, if he can do this and I feel like I have creative ideas, I feel like maybe I don't need to get 1 million views. Maybe I get like 50,000 views. That would be crazy good. How can I get a little bit of this? And I tried a few different ideas, and eventually it just started clicking, and it was just the snowball effect. And it really just started. I'd done YouTube for like 10 plus years. I had this, year window, and I decided I'm going to, like, now it's turned into a job. I want this to be a job. Let me treat this like a job. Treat this like something I want to get good at. Let me learn how this camera thing works, the lighting, the microphone, like every part of the job. In the same way I'd study for a test. School is always important to me. The goal is to get A's. You got to put a lot of work in as everything gets more and more difficult. You don't just show up like, I don't know, I hope this works. That's not going to work. It's never going to work. And it was really, really beautiful and really magical for that to happen at that point, especially with like kind of where my life was at, of my girlfriend, and pretty soon after fiance was in med school, and we had moved a state away. So we were further away from family. I was working crazy hours trying to make YouTube work. Med school is very tough. So we're not seeing people as much. I'm not saying in as good a contact with friends and online friends. We went from the 3DS scene to the Switch scene. A lot of people had kind of moved on. There's a lot of people that had just moved past Pokemon. They weren't really PokeTubing as much. There was kind of a changing of the old guard. So, I'm meeting new people, but like there's a lot of these relationships that are falling away, and I was getting more and more isolated, and then COVID happened, and I couldn't have been more isolated. And this is really, unfortunate set of circumstances that turned into like this passion and this fire under me to keep working, and everything just really exploded. And while it hasn't been what it used to be, where my older, Pokemon career was just really built around friendships and relationships, being so deep within the community at that time, I almost felt like I was pushing against the community, saying, hey, Pokemon, we can't do anything. We can't make these viral videos. Pokemon just doesn't have a lot to give. And I said, I don't believe that. My parents do not think it can do this. My friends don't. No one really believes, even Pokemon YouTubers do not believe these videos can do super well. I think they can. And it really took off. And You know, one thing, the final thing I'll say on this before I talk a lot, I apologize, because I know it's the point of this. But, you know, I think a lot of people ask, how do you become friends with M&J TV, this, that, and the other? Well, it was Draft League, years and years back. And he always had like 1 million subscribers. I always had whatever I had. We were just really good friends. It wasn't a YouTube thing. It was just like really close friends. I remember, like, hey, Mikey, I have these 2 video ideas. You got to trust me. I'm going to throw you my better idea. This idea of like, I realized no one had done a catching competition on YouTube. Like, Pokemon got to catch them all, man. What are we doing here? The safari, like the bug catching contest, the Safari Zone, it's built into the games. I'm like, Mikey, 5 minutes to catch a random Pokemon. If you do it, you move on. If you can't do it, you lose a point. You open up the game. You don't have to set anything up. There's nothing nefarious going on. We're just going to go on there. I'm going to do like, let's spin a wheel. Go get a Zubat, Mikey. You got 5 minutes. And, you know, that video really, it helped things take off. And it was just this nice rediscovery of like, wow, how can I just have fun with Pokemon with friends and kind of show that with people? Like, there's so much to Pokemon. You think there's not a lot to do when the game's over? That's not true. Here's a fun game. Go play it with a friend. You know, this is great. Like, let's play along with us. You know, you could see if you do better than us when we fail. And it's just, I think it really helped me rediscover a lot of this just kind of more casual fun with Pokemon after so many years of competitive and really being disappointed with the timer.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, it goes back to something we said before about how important it is to be there with something from the beginning to then pave the way for later success. But I mean, the fact that you had that belief in what Pokemon had to offer and you kept flying that flag, that's wonderful to hear.
Doubles battling is a much superior product when it comes to the viewing experience because the battles are quicker. You can, you know, you bring 6 Pokemon, or well, you have a team of 6, you only pick 4, you can do best 2 out of 3, and I actually like that overall, because you're probably going to find the better battler in best 2 out of 3 versus just, I mean, Pokemon, there's a lot of things that can happen out of your control. But with singles, what I really loved, and it's why I've had a hard time dipping my toes into doubles, is I am really, really good at reading players within the battle. So when you have a 60-minute battle, if we're going for 40 minutes, I might make a few very safe plays in those first few turns to kind of get a read of like, okay, you know, are you going to be a more aggressive player? Are you going to try to predict me? Because if you're a more advanced player and you're making predictions, I can predict you to make a prediction, predicting me to do the optimal play and then like not do. So it's like all these mind games that can really be built on like discovering how your opponent plays throughout the turns. So in a 60-minute battle, there's an extra 40 minutes to work with to really learn and set up a late game strategy of like, okay, I'm really going to lull them into a false sense of security, but at the end, I can clean up. And, you know, I brought up Mamoswine earlier. Maybe I whittle down their team and then Ice Shard at the end. Or Terrakion. I'd oftentimes Choice Scarf or Choice Band that and hopefully pick them off at the end when I've whittled down things and I got them into range. So when we get into Sword and Shield and the timer goes from 60 minutes to 20 minutes, oftentimes when you do a singles battle, you wouldn't even be able to finish the battle. It would just be like, okay, whoever had more Pokemon or more HP wins. And it just changed everything about singles battling. And if I'm, you know, at that point trying to make this into a career and really like, hey, my, you know, girlfriend, soon fiance is becoming a doctor. Like, I'm not paying the bills. I got to figure something out with this. So singles battles are best viewed like when it's like a 30 to 40 minute battle, if not longer. But the reason you've never seen them on the main stage, I've assumed is just, they take a long time. It's very difficult to do a proper tournament if every single battle is going that long. You cannot do, what is it? The first round is usually like, you do 9 battles before the next round of placements. Is that usually how?
Yeah, well, day 1 is normally
day
8
one.
Swiss rounds.
Okay,
and then, you'll do a couple more day 2.
And if it was singles, day 1 is 3 battles.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it was a good change. It was a fair change, but I think one of the big things with Pokemon is, you know, as a creator of anything, I'm not in charge of Pokemon. I'm not in charge of a lot of these things. You can only control what you can control. So you got to be ready to move with whatever Pokemon gives you and whatever they say, like, you can, you know, do. So it is really an interesting challenge, but I like that challenge. Like, okay, there's only so many, this isn't Minecraft where you can do anything you want and come up with any idea. There's a lot of limitations. What interesting idea can I do? Like, what is a fun catching competition that I can come up with between a friend within the base game. And that's a really fun challenge that, as you know, from those early days of, there's got to be more, like, there's Pokemon's the biggest franchise in the world. There's got to be more people that would be willing to watch this than it seems. So now there's a lot of people that do stuff like that. And it's been really, really cool to see that belief. And that, I think a big thing here is a huge risk of, no one's ever done this idea before. I'm either a fool because no one's done it before and I think it will work, or I am the first person to really believe in this, which is, it's very daunting. You know, you have to really be confident within an idea to be like, okay, let's do something no one else is doing. And I think it's going to do super well. That's just, I think there a lot of times people have those ideas before I may have them, but they don't do it just because that's scary. It's so much easier to do something that is a known quantity. It is much riskier to just go out there, but I had nothing to lose. I was swinging for the fences.
Yeah. I mean, it's wonderful that you gave yourself that year and then it played out the way that it did. How did it feel when you saw those views, you saw those videos starting to take off, and you had that belief, but you just didn't know which way it would go? To see that was validated, how did that feel?
It's really, really hard to explain that. I think I'm pretty similar to the guy I was when I started in terms of like how the numbers or like the fame has affected me. I'm painfully self-critical. Like I am not going to get really high or low off of a lot of things that I see online, because there's a very negative voice inside that's like, you're like, okay, you got a viral video, like, good job, that's the goal. Oh, it didn't do as well, like, come on, like, everything's bad, you rework this, fix this, that, and the other. So I think for me, I had a hard time after I hit 10,000 subscribers a long time back. That was like my stretch goal. I thought 1,000 was my goal when I first started. 10,000 was a super stretch goal. Never thought that was possible. You get anywhere past that, it's like, I don't know what these numbers, like, what am I supposed to, like, I never really thought that was real. But, gosh, I have so many thoughts and memories. I'm trying to put them together. I think I finally have it. I kind of had this, like, really, like, I was clinging on to this thing of, I need to get 100K before this is over. I need to get this physical plaque. And even if no one else believes in this, if no one else really takes this seriously, I have this physical thing where I can show that I did this. This is real. I had like, there were a lot of tough moments and memories. And I think there were some people who kind of used what I was doing to almost feel better about themselves in my life. My family was very big on academia. Like, my wife is a doctor. I have an uncle that's a doctor. I have a cousin that's becoming a doctor. I have an aunt that was a professor, then became a lawyer. I'm like, well, what is happening? So there was a lot of people that really, I could go on with a lot of stories. A lot of people that really didn't understand. And it's like, what are you doing? You're wasting all this time. I needed that plaque. But when I hit 100K, I recognized, it actually kind of messed me up for a while, of like kind of existential, like, oh my God, this is not the top of the mountain. I could hit 1 million. Like, these videos are going more viral than I ever imagined. That things I never thought were remotely possible for me are here. This is the beginning. I thought this was the, like, I just got to get this, real thing. Okay, maybe we move on. Like, hey guys, I didn't waste my time. But it was more than I ever bargained for in the best way. I never, ever, ever believed in myself that could happen. But I also was so confident in my ideas and that I could do it. And they clash in a really big way. I never thought I'd hit 100K. 1 million was not a dream. It was not a reality. I didn't think Pokemon creators really could hit 1 million, even though one of my best friends in the world at the time still had 1 million. Just, that's not something that could happen to me. But I believe so strongly in these. So it was kind of like, is this a dream? How did this happen? What's going on? I still kind of feel that way, but it's this, there's just such a strong confidence and belief. Like, I want to do this. I feel like I need to do this. And it's, I don't know. I focus more on that than the, like, this is real. I'll be honest. I need to get to a big Pokemon event at some point. I've never gone to a big event since my channel blew up, and I have a hard time really comprehending, like, no one's really gonna care that I'm there. But I know in the back of my mind, like, I'm pretty sure, like, most people know who I am. Like, that's kind of they're at a Pokemon event, like watching, like half these people are here because they've watched Wolfie, like they know YouTubers, like it's, and I've just never really had that moment. I'm very to myself, you know, I'm very like, I don't like talking about YouTube and the numbers, and I'm just, you know, I hang out with like my old like hometown friends, often family, so it's really two different worlds and two different kind of mindsets. That was a longer answer than you were probably expecting, but there's just so much with this I can unpack. So I'm done for now.
That's wonderful. No, it's so insightful getting that from you, and I think people, the guests I have on the show, sometimes just underestimate just how interesting the bare facts are, and the fact that you run with them to such an extent and sort of go down avenues I'm not sure you're expecting that you will go down is fascinating for us to hear. So thank you so much for your openness and your honesty. Yeah. But now it's time to discover what's going to be Pokemon number 5 on your dream team, alongside Machamp, Shiny, Rayquaza, Mamoswine, and Pelipper.
I did mention it earlier, which I tried not to do this, but Aegislash. I loved Aegislash so much. I thought it was one of the coolest Pokemon they ever made. It's so good competitively. It looks so cool. The shiny's fantastic. Like it lines up with a lot of the things I enjoy outside of Pokemon. With like, I said I wanted to do a Knights and Dragon theme. Like I love fantasy in that way. I love everything about like a Ghost Sword and Shield. Are you kidding me? That's so cool. So it was a really big part of what I wanted that branding to really be. And as I mentioned, one of my first ideas, like when I really learned a lot from Ludwig. And he always talked about like, okay, stream your viral YouTube idea and then turn that into a video. And then from the video, it will push people to the stream. And then you kind of just keep going back and forth and back and forth. And I eventually kind of realized like, wait a minute, the YouTube thing's really working out. And as much as I love streaming, I had struggled for so long trying to make YouTube work that as soon as I could pay the bills just off of the YouTube channel, I really did not want to take like donations and like the subscriptions from Twitch. I didn't want that to be the main revenue. I was just so proud of like, I can do this on my own. And I just want people to enjoy this content. I just want to make content that makes people happy. I'm so blessed. And I switched fully to, I'm going to the YouTube side. And it's, I think part of it too is I was putting so much into like I'm not a good editor, never been a good editor. Like I was trying to like, okay, I need to learn this quick before I can hire an editor, and putting more into the YouTube side. So there's definitely a route where, instead of different things that have been a lot of my branding, it's more of the Knights and Dragons still, and I streamed a lot more. And I do like streaming. I was so happy of this whole YouTube thing working out, and it's went a different direction. But Aegislash, always a favorite, something I've always loved. And the only thing I dislike about it is I don't get to use it as much as I'd love, because it's often like so powerful that in like different like silly competitive formats, or I don't know, even like different games, you don't often get to use it or get it early because it's just so good. So, you play through X and Y. It's like, give me a Hone Edge early. Let's make this easy. Come on.
I think it's wonderful to have a Sword and Shield Pokemon representing this point of your journey, because those are the main series Pokemon games, Sword and Shield Generation 8, that really kickstarted all of this YouTube for you. To be clear, so far, is it only Rayquaza that's going to be shiny on your dream team?
Yeah, I'd say only Rayquaza. Aegislash, the shiny is cool. The regular is also amazing. I think that's the beauty of, same with Rayquaza, but the shiny Rayquaza was very specific and important, and there's different milestones there. But Aegislash, it just kind of checks every single box of being pretty awesome.
Fair enough.
That one's a pretty straightforward one.
Aegislash joining the team, but before we round out this dream team, John, now it's time to get into reaching 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, no, I have a lot I could say with this, but I think even like a lot of it's so deeply personal. Last year was a really tough year for me. A lot of things happened. I lost my uncle very unexpectedly very soon after. The same grandmother that brought me to that tournament I mentioned earlier had a problem with her heart, and that was this very long process. Like it was so difficult, and we were getting really close to 1 million, and I just hit a point where I'm like, you know what? Like I just want to make this push. I want to make it happen. I never really believed this could happen for me. It's happening at some point. Let's make this push, and we had some of our best months ever pushed to get there, and it was this big like emotional release. We get to 1 million, and then I knew it was going to happen. I didn't want anyone to make a video with like all my family and friends, but my mom put it together, and it was like the most emotional thing. I for so long, I was so like self-critical about, I'm getting emotional, but about YouTube and myself and how I was doing with it. And, when it started to take off, it really went from, I'm doing YouTube and no one really respects it or understands it to, wow, this is taking off. And it's, it's doing better than I could have ever imagined. And I mean, you have 1 million subscribers, your videos get millions of views. I make good money. I have, employees. I've had employees who've had babies while they work for my company. It's been this beautiful thing that's, developed. And once it went from like, God, I'm barely getting by to like, wow, this is so many kids' dreams to become YouTubers. I didn't like talking about it. It was just such an extreme. There was never this middle point of like, wow, like, good for you. It's working out. You're one of us. There was just a lot of these like I felt more kind of extreme feelings from a lot of people on the outside. And even like I mentioned to you earlier, I feel as my channel's blown up, I don't think people think I'm very approachable, and I just don't think people really approach me. I don't know. I'm like it's a big channel, and it's like it's odd. It's this odd thing. So to hit 1 million and get this video and have so many people, talking about it, it was so special. And after how difficult the year had been and focusing so much on family and these sad things, it was this really, really beautiful moment that I will always look back at so unbelievably fondly. I mean, this past year's been really tough and been very isolating, and it was just this beautiful moment where it was so much less about the milestone and like, I don't know, all these other things, or it was all about the milestone, all about me. I don't like things being about me or the milestone, and my family made it be about me and made me have to hear all those wonderful things, which was really special because it felt like a year where every little thing could go wrong, and just a funny little thing because I thought it was going to be more about like, okay, I could finally get like this special plaque, and like, I've seen all these other people get it. I never thought that could be me. This is going to be so special. 1 million's this number that I could have never imagined. The week I hit 1 million, YouTube said, we're shrinking that. That's where we are shrinking that plaque. That's like, what? I like moved mountains to like hit this milestone way sooner than I probably should have. Like born out of like all of this sadness and despair. Like I'm going to do it. Like before I lose anyone else, I'm doing this. My grandma will see me hit 1 million. Thankfully, she's still here. She said, I'm going to see 2 million. So it's, no plaque for that, but we'll try. But I get there and they're like, yeah, nah, we're it's the same size as the 100K. What do you mean? I already got that one. It's the same size. And I'm like talking to like a YouTube rep, and he's like, oh, you get the plaque? I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, it's the smaller one. I'm like, a lot of my other people got around the same time. They got the bigger one. Like, you know what? Just like, hey man, don't tell me that. Let me move on. So I think the point of saying that is there's so much of like the, the achievement and the plaque and the this and the that. And it really was just having this moment where, all these people told me how proud they were of this. And most of them somewhat understand what I do. It's very nice. Because one thing I've actually talked about more and more with people, but I don't live around YouTubers. I don't spend a lot of time around creators. When a lot of people meet me and know what I do, so often people will ask, so what are you going to do when that ends? What am I going to do when I am fired? Can you imagine walking up to someone like, oh, you're an accountant. So when they let you go in a few years because you stink, what next? And it's just not a very like, yeah, let me, keep talking about my passion. YouTube's not always the easiest to talk about. So for me, that was just such a special time to get all of that, as it's, being a YouTuber is interesting, and everyone has different, ways they go about it. But I'm a lot more low key, so this was special.
What an inspiring tale! Thank you so much for sharing that with us, John. Do you remember what specifically the date was when you hit 1 million?
I had that pulled up in case you asked. It was August 30th, 2024. The goal was to do it in August, and we could have done it a little bit sooner. I knew like if I did a stream for 1 million, like that last like 1,000 or 2,000, we could hit. But I wanted to wait for the right day. When I'd already seen, I think it was Ronaldo got his big gold plaque. I was like, oh, wow, cool. That's going to be me. Me and Ronaldo. Wow, look at that. And then the next day, YouTube's like, yeah, we're shrinking that. I'm like, yeah, you had to quickly do that to get Ronaldo the bigger one before you say PM7, you're no Ronaldo. I know. So then I pushed it back a little bit, but I wanted to get it done before August. So it was August 30th.
And you did it. August 30th. Okay, so you're coming up now really on a year at the time of recording since hitting that milestone. Well, now, looking back, and also at the time, please tell me that you feel immensely proud of what you've done.
Oh, I'm so incredibly proud of it. It's something that I've tried to get a lot better with. I never found the movie. I remember someone told me a while back, they're like, you should watch this movie. And it was basically like this, what they said, the synopsis was like, there's a composer who wanted to make this like his masterpiece. And he spent his whole life thinking he didn't do it and do anything special. And at the end of his life, and he found out like you did do it. Like that was something you did early on. And I've always loved like Van Gogh's art, and his story. Like I remember learning about that in high school of like, man sold one painting in his life. No one really told him what you did was great. And then, he's Van Gogh. We all know about Van Gogh. Van Gogh's collabing with Pokemon now. He sold one painting in his life. Bad life. Collabing with Pokemon. Crazy. And I'm not good at really complimenting myself and being kind. There's always another milestone. There's always another big video. There's always something more you can reach to. And I think I've really tried to force myself with 1 million. This is something, not only did I never imagine I would do, I didn't think it was possible. And it's something I've really tried to treasure, especially because when I made that new channel, PM7, a lot of people said, Pokemon, we're not getting views. Sword and Shield, that game stinks. Like, well, it's kind of like one of the most popular Pokemon games ever. It sold like millions and millions of copies. Someone's playing the game, guys. Like someone's playing. And, like if I think about from what I believed then till now, it's really cool to be one of the few Pokemon YouTubers that hit 1 million. And I'm hopeful there's many more that follow. But it's something I try to force myself to be like, hey, it's not about the next one. It's not the next video. It's not the next milestone, because that goes on forever. That one was special.
Let me, on the behalf of the entire Pokemon community, John, say you should feel very proud of yourself, and you should give yourself the luxury of just patting yourself on the back sometimes. Yeah, of course, a big part of how you got to where you are now is the fact that you're so forward-looking, and there's always another milestone to reach. But I hope that along the way, especially going forward, now that you've hit 1 million, you can give yourself the opportunity to stop and smell the roses a little bit more.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's very sweet.
100%. Well, now it's time, speaking of 100%, to get 100% on this dream team. Let's round it out. Let's introduce team member number 6.
This one's pretty easy. I have to go with Politoed. It's a Pokemon I've always loved. It was one of my favorites just in the Gen 2 era. I mean, Gen 1, I really liked. I wanted to like Poliwrath, and I kind of forced myself to like it, but it's a tadpole that punches people. It has legs. It's just I don't understand. And very clearly, someone at Pokemon's like, hey guys, we did a frog line. We never had a frog at the end. That's kind of weird. And they corrected that. I don't think enough people have talked about how funny it is that they had Poliwag through Poliwrath and immediately were like, different colors, way more frog-like. We really missed something here. This was a weird decision. Kingdra does not look completely different than Seadra. There's like one of those Crobat. Like none of the other evolutions look that drastically different without getting a new typing. So that was funny. I've always loved frogs. Like became a bigger part of my persona online, and it's funny. Of like I don't know. I just like frogs. That was it. I just like frogs. And, Politoed's where it really, really started. And, it's just one of those things where it's kind of been in the background. I guess another drizzle Pokemon. There's a lot of rain. Nobody will be hitting Mamoswine, my sweet Mamoswine, with fire moves. Don't even try it. Or Aegislash, for that matter. But, yeah, no, I mean, Pelipper. Politoed is just a Pokemon that I've always loved. And it's a special one.
I mean, if your Mamoswine has thick fat as well to reduce the fire type moves even further, then you can just bench your fire types when Mamoswine's on the field and all that rain. Yes, I mean, I know that frogs are a big part of you. It's quite well known that you love frogs. So, would you say that Politoed is your favourite of the frog Pokemon?
Yeah, no, I'd say so. I remember when I always loved Pokemon cards, and there was this one of the first holographic Politoed cards is like, one of the main ones seared into my memory, and I can't really see images well in my head at all, and that's like one of the few that I can really like not really bring to mind fully, but like enough where I know what's going on. And it was just it was a very special Pokemon. Another difficult Pokemon to get, so that was always kind of annoying, but actually, it's one I never really used in games because it was so difficult, but I just really loved it. People always ask, why do you love frogs? I don't know. I just go in the woods and find frogs and find like salamanders and turtles. I just, I like Pokemon and I like finding cool little critters in the woods. And who would have thought those two would go together?
And you're so right that I'm so glad you said that, John, because I agree. I have long thought how strange it is that the Poliwag line goes from small tadpole to slightly bigger tadpole with feet to very similar to Poliwhirl, but slightly more buffed up tadpole that looks a bit meaner.
Yep.
Yeah, well, Politoed, it's such a fantastic way to round out this dream team, and this means, John, that your complete dream team is Machamp, Shiny Rayquaza, Mamoswine, Pelipper, Aegislash, and Politoed. So, interesting. You mentioned we've got a couple of Pokemon that have the Drizzle ability, making it rain. One's Generation 2, one's Generation 3. We've got a couple of flying types as well with Pelipper and the Rayquaza. We've got another Generation 3 and Rayquaza, Generation 1 with Machamp. So a lot of classic ones. Then Aegislash Generation 6. And, what do I forget? Generation 4 with Mamoswine. So yeah, fairly sort of front-loaded, shall we say, in terms of the time span of the generations. But now I have to ask you, if you used to choose one of these to be your partner Pokemon, which would it be?
Have to be Mamoswine. Have to be.
Yep. The favorite, Mamoswine.
Yep. I mean, come on. Swinub could be a pet. That's so easy. You love your little Swinub. It evolves, pile of swine. Eventually, Mamoswine, not only are you winning every battle, I mean, we've seen in the games, you can ride on top of Mamoswine. I mean, come on, who's going to stop me when I'm going through town on a Mamoswine? It's going to be great.
Well, I mean, hopefully the authorities, because we don't want you to be causing too much damage, structural damage to the streets that you're riding on. But wonderful. And, I feel like it was in the previous competitive season in 2024, we saw Mamoswine brought to at least one regional. Obviously, it was on stream because you never see Mamoswine. And it did prove its prowess in terms of its offense. It didn't really catch on, I'm afraid to say, John. Sure. But we love to see it. And Mamoswine, you're sticking by your favourite, and that's wonderful. So, now, a slightly different kind of question for you, John. If you were a Pokemon, based on everything you know about yourself, what do you think you would be?
See, this one is always, pretty straightforward for me. I just go Machamp of, I don't want to, I kind of I got the thumbs and I can walk around. I don't really want to completely change how I'm moving through life. But now I'm this incredibly powerful Pokemon. I can still do the old Pokemon thing. I got an extra set of arms. I can't even comprehend okay, how do I do all these things at once? I'm so much better at sports. I mean, come on. It would be great. I think it's an easy 1-to-1 where it's there's me, and then what if there's much better me in all these different ways? And I think it's nice. There's even some modesty. I mean, one of the only Pokemon with clothes on. I don't, hey, I don't even have to think through it. Boom, I'm covered. Let's go.
Fascinating. Yeah, no, I love that way of arguing. I don't know if I see you as a fighting type, though. I'm just trying to think what type I would see you as. I can see electric, but I could also see water. I could see you as a lantern, I could see you as... I'd go with that over Rotom Wash. I think you're more anglerfish than washing machine. Okay. I would hazard a guess. Yeah. How does that strike you?
Yeah, I mean, I could say Lantern is what it's based off of, not a very happy looking animal, but Lantern, a very happy-go-lucky little guy. So I could see that. I think that fits. Yeah.
You sort of lighted the way with your Pokemon YouTube channel as well. I think the demeanor, as you say, the friendliness also fits. So they're pretty different, Machamp and Lantern. They both make sense. What do you all think of all the Pokemon there are? Do you think that John would be a Lantern or indeed a Machamp? Let us know in the comments. We'd be fascinated to read. And speaking of you all, it's now time for your community questions. I post it online as I always do, asking for questions for my guests. You came out in your droves to submit questions for John. Thank you so much. I apologise. I won't be able to ask all. I think it was more than 300 of them, but I have had to be strict and whittle it down. I apologise if I mispronounce any of your names or handles. So to kick things off, Bandit Rests would like to know, will you ever play competitive again?
That's a really good question, and it's one I've definitely wrestled with. My mom said it many times, if you're going to do something, do it right. And that's not always the healthiest way to think about things. Let's be very clear, but it's definitely how I think about things. And I just don't like being bad at things. I know I'm good at competitive. My friendship with Wolfie, I mean, it started with him, deeming me as singles rival. And then, we reconnected and he was like, hey, your channel's doing pretty well. Like, do you have any tips? Let's talk YouTube. So it's 2 times of, the world champ, like, hey, you're pretty good at this thing. I think I like you. And then thankfully it wasn't just all that, there's some other things that, he enjoyed, a good friendship, but competitive's tough because I'm really, really, really good at a lot of things in singles that I think would translate to VGC. I was really good at reading my opponents and VGC. Okay, now how do I learn to read? Okay, from battle 1 to 2, how are they going to change their strategy? How can I be ready for that? And I think that's something I was pretty good at. So I'd like to someday give it a shot, but I just am not sure if at this point in my life, if I have time to really dedicate to that properly, as I want to keep making bigger and better, videos as well. I want to keep pushing myself creatively. So I think I mean, we go all the way back in this podcast, and I'm a talker, so I knew this would be a long episode. I was like, yeah, I don't know if he's ready for that, but that's fine.
I was. I love it.
But, it wasn't my choice, but I swapped out basketball for, creativity when I was younger. And if I didn't have the creative side, I probably would have tried a lot harder at basketball. Like, I don't think I would not have gone pro. I don't think I would be a D1 player, but I might have tried to play in college. So I'm fine letting creativity go first instead of competitiveness. I think I've done enough things that are impressive competitively. And what I really I did not get a lot of props in my competitive days because I'm such a happy-go-lucky, goofy person that I think people would sometimes mistake that commentary and demeanor for not being as good at the game, or people wouldn't be as happy with a bigger creator being on the competitive side. It's like, okay, no, let's get someone who's dedicated to the craft. And that's things have changed in a big way, but it, that was definitely more of the vibe. So it's kind of interesting. I think, the last time I did something competitive, I was invited to Pokemon Challenges. He did a tournament with a bunch of different creators. There were I think 3 main Pokemon creators and a bunch of other huge YouTubers. And I went to the tournament knowing I'm the 3rd best battler here. It was a singles battle, so Joey's going to be 1 Pokeaim. Wolfie is going to be 2. I mean, I assume they'll probably match up and it'll be close. I'm going to be 3, and then very easily, a very drastic drop from the 3 competitive players. And then at Ludwig, I mean, he won a tournament against other people who were other creators playing Pokemon, but I was in the trenches, playing competitive for way too long for no reason. This is what I do. And nobody in my chat, no one in the stream really believed I was going to do that good. I became the Cinderella story because I was in the losers bracket. No, I just lost to Wolfie round 1, and then I beat up on a bunch of people who don't play Pokemon. But I just left that, and I'm like, I was the 3rd best battler. I came in 3rd, and I'm getting more praise for this than I ever have. Maybe I'm good. This feels weird. I did as good as I should have, and people are singing my praises. I don't know how to feel about this. Maybe I just keep going off into the sunset and continue the creative side, because that's what people know me as.
Interesting. But I mean, it's also nice to know that option is always there for you if you wanted to mix things up a little bit, or if you wanted a new challenge. So wonderful. Well, hopefully we would love to see you at a competitive tournament soon.
And champions, so who knows?
Exactly. Keep us posted. Cannot wait to see. All right, now, next question here from, again, apologies for any mispronunciation, Miro Bricks. I want to say M-I-R-O Bricks. Who is your Mount Rushmore of YouTubers?
Gosh, that is difficult. At many points in my career, I have, moved from being a fan to okay, now I'm focused more on the content. And I don't really go to a lot of events, so I wouldn't really say peer often, but there's been many times where I've given advice to different bigger YouTubers, and it's okay, I think I really know what I'm talking about here. So if I'm gonna make my Mount Rushmore, I'd say the first one is I genuinely say M&J TV. He was one of the first Pokemon YouTubers to hit 1 million, and there was no one near him. It wasn't even close. And I've watched him go from game to game and keep changing be invited to big YouTube things where he really is like our representative for Pokemon in terms of just like a big established creator. So I'd say him one. I'd say we're going very biased. I'll say I think Small Ant too. I never get over the feeling like, what? Why does everyone I follow on Twitter say Pokemon is dead and this guy just got 4 million views casually and he's not a Pokemon guy? And just his ideas, his dedication, just some of the challenges he's done, it's really, really cool. And for me, I just love the creative side of things. So I definitely say him next. I mentioned him earlier. I'd say Ludwig next. Of watching Ludwig's ascent that was really, really cool. I loved watching his content in the beginning of that 2020 period of just like every single day. And it's just he was like the guy that really sparked off the subathon movement, which was crazy. The number one most subscribed to person on Twitch, but he's always more of a YouTube guy, at least in my eyes. And eventually he's doing things with Mr. Beast and this, that, and the other. And that was amazing to see. And then I'd say the final one is one of my favorite creators when I was like in high school watching was KYR Speedy. He did like Modern Warfare, like content. So that was always like my favorite when I was watching. And he's every once in a great while done Pokemon stuff. I tried to, when me and Wolfie did a tournament way back in the day, I was like, we should ask Speedy. And he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, dang it. This is my moment. But I think that's my Mount Rushmore. I know those are not the 4 biggest and best YouTubers out there, but I want the list to be more personal. And those are 4 incredible creators.
We want the list to be personal as well. I think that's exactly what Mirror Bricks had in mind. Just to be clear, you mean Call of Duty Modern Warfare?
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, well, fascinating answer. Thanks so much for that question. Now, ZU64. Yeah. Did you have career aspirations before YouTube, and what were they?
No, I really didn't. And it's such an interesting question to ask. It's kind of like, if people asked me about like my love life, of like, well, I'm with my high school sweetheart. So, sometimes it's just things they keep going. And I think when I was in high school, I talked about getting into the creative side of like my parents divorced. I had like my first girlfriend, like that didn't work out in this tough time. I lost basketball and I really, found this rekindled love for like making creative things. And it was so important to me to do something I really loved. I saw a lot of people that were older than me that were unhappy with their job, and you don't have to be. It's not easy to do a job that you love. But I don't know, things that like, what's easy in life, right? Like, life can be difficult. And I just really wanted to try to figure out something that I really loved. And it was really kind of coming down between more creative stuff or history. I really loved history in school. I was pretty good at most of the subjects, but I just was so passionate about history. And I want to create, as much as I love learning about what people did in the past and it's like all these different things, I really felt this need to create. I didn't want to be someone who was watching history happen. I might not be doing, like some huge historical thing. That's okay. I wanted to create something special. So I went into college and I was kind of hedging my bets of like, okay, my worst subject is like foreign language. I'm probably not going to be great at coding, but I'm creative. If YouTube doesn't work out, I think I have really good ideas. Maybe I could help create like a game or like a website or an app, or like just have like the idea behind something. And I need to know how to code if I'm going to lead a team to do it. I can't just be like, you do this. Like I need to know. So I made my college experience so much more difficult than it needed to be. Like picking the one subject that would have not been in my repertoire with computer science, and knowing that I wanted to do YouTube, like I at least try it the whole time. And eventually I said, I don't like this comp sci thing. I'm going to switch over to MIS. It was like Management Information Systems. It was basically keep doing comp sci things, but like get a business side so that I could, if I tried to start my own business, I'd have some skills. And I went from there. A lot of people ask, well, what are you going to, like, what would you do if YouTube didn't work, this, that, and the other? I got a degree. I did internships. I'm very capable. I could do a lot of other jobs. I could go back. A lot of people told me I could be a teacher. That's not in my mind. My thought was I want to try to make a dream job happen. I had to really go for it. So it's a great question. I get it a lot. I wanted to go for the dream because the safe option, the fallback option, I can fall back into it. And there's no shame in that. And if I need to, if that ever feels right, then I'll tell you. And could be teacher. But I don't know. We'll see.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, following your dreams is always the best way, and certainly, as a fan of history, you have given us a history of Pokemon YouTube, at least over the course of this episode. So thank you very much for that question. Now, Ultimate 23 Dragon would like to know, what's your biggest passion outside of Pokemon?
That is that's a very good question. It's probably still sports. I love playing basketball, playing any sort of sport, any long game, but like watching football and I just really love. It's actually, funnily enough, I'd say like some sort of real like competition where there's a winner and a loser. Because I actually also love the reality show Survivor, and people are like, reality TV, why? It's the same as football. Some real people go out there. They're going to try to win. There's going to be someone who loses, and it's like, we're really going to rag on like the 0-16 team or the person voted out first, but it's just whatever happens, happens. And there's something so beautiful about that. And I love history and following the history and talk like, oh, this person won this team won this. And I really love getting invested in stuff like that. I think it's just so cool. It's so beautiful. It's why I love Draft League, but it's beautiful in anything. I think there is nothing more beautiful in this world than getting like really invested in something that doesn't really matter, because you can make it matter, right? Like it's, does it really matter that, Wolf has won 10 regionals more than anyone? Yeah, it does. It matters so much to me. That's so cool. And I will sing his praises to so many people who don't know, like these things are so cool. And like, oh, this person won Survivor twice. That's so cool. Like, my favorite football team won the Super Bowl 2 times. Like, these things are so exciting and cool, and I just love it. So it's something I've always been very passionate about since I was young. And while I spend a lot of time on a hobby turned job, so it's, there's a lot of time that's put into this, and you have to kind of, how do I not let these lines blur of like, work, other things, that's always remained.
There is so much joy and heart and soul in the trivial things, I think, including, taking a game like Trivial Pursuit, the knowledge that you will never come up on a daily basis. But that's, I don't know, that's part of what makes us feel alive. I feel like, so I totally agree with you there, John. Thank you very much for that question. Now, final question here from How To By Me. What has been your favorite, big question this, your favorite moment of YouTube, and also your favorite moment with M&JTV?
Wow. My favorite moment of YouTube. That is... My favorite moment of YouTube was sitting on a boat on a lake with my mom, my stepdad, and my girlfriend, and my first video that ever really blew up. My channel, it was the new channel, had like maybe 20,000 subscribers. It had done decently well. And I look at the analytics and it says like 7,000 views an hour, then 8,000, then 9,000. Like, you add these numbers up, like we're getting close to how many people even really know I exist. What's going on here? And it was so cool to have that happen in real time and share that with like family. Like it's starting to happen. And like in a way I never really imagined. Like I had this new idea, and that was really cool. So I think that'd be my favorite moment. And then when it comes to Mikey, that one is really tough, as he's been there for so many moments. I think my favorite thing was probably we did a show that we came up with, the John Michael Cup, and having him over and Tyler over and Katie over, like Tyler and Katie were our editors, but also like two of my very close friends. And like Katie's a really close friend of my now wife. Like it's a lot more like, I don't talk to Katie about work at all. I talk to her every day. It's not about work. And, having us all come together and work on a bigger project and like use a lot of the things like they learned in school and like production, like cameras and lighting, and make this bigger video. It was just really cool to have everyone together. So I'd say my favorite YouTube moment was the fun time with friends that was made because of YouTube. Not really, a video. We made a lot of videos. The secret sauce between me and Mikey, and actually I'd say like this final question, I'll say one last thing. For a lot of people that ask like advice with YouTube, at least when it comes to collaborating, people are probably going to look at Mikey and always see the subscriber count, especially when I was much smaller than him. Every recording we do starts with like an hour of just catching up and just talking. And at points, Katie will yell at us, like, save that for the video. But it's the friendship first. It's the chemistry first. And that has really, that's treated me well throughout my career. I think that's always going to bleed through, and everyone's got to start somewhere. So it's not all about that big shiny number, because, you know, you might not really get along with that person. It's about like, hey, let's have a connection. Let's talk. So, yeah.
Laying very, very solid foundations indeed, and then you build up from there. Very inspiring things. Thank you so much, John, and thank you for all your questions there. To submit a question for a future guest on Chazingdra Chats, you can find my handles at Chazingdra across all socials, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and of course YouTube. That's where I post the call-outs for questions for my guests. I would love to hear what you love to hear. All right then, John, so we've heard a lot about you up to now, but what's next for you?
What's next? What's next is really enjoying Pokemon. For so long in my career, it was like, oh, I got to make this work. Can I make this happen before 26? Oh my God, it's happening. How do I keep it going? We're going into new Pokemon games, and it's like, I did the thing. This is my job. I don't know how much longer. I'm just going to enjoy ZA. I'm going to enjoy Pokemon Champions. And I'm hopeful I'm still doing this for whatever the 10th generation is, because I think it could be special. I'm a little salty that, you know, Scarlet and Violet is so great on the Switch too, because I only got so much time I can do this. Maybe I'll do this forever. Who knows? You know, for the rest of my life. I don't know. What I'm hopeful for is I can get to a Pokemon game on the Switch too, still making content that is pretty beloved. You know, I want to enjoy in that positivity. The reason I joined the Pokemon community is to be around people who love Pokemon. And sometimes when you get too deep in the weeds, you hear a lot of people complaining, and it's like, well, I thought we were the ones that liked it, like, probably too much. Like, come on. So I'm just excited to enjoy Pokemon, as basic as that answer is.
Yeah, no, keep doing what you're doing, and it's wonderful that you're thriving doing it as well. And it's a really nice way to tie back into what you said very early on in our recording about how you were just, you know, you started that website in the first place because you were looking for other people to share your passion with. So that's fantastic to hear. And our final question for you, John. Looking back from now, as a very successful Pokemon content creator, all the way back to the young John, Pokemon Yellow was the first game, but it was only Pokemon Platinum that really spoke to them. What advice would you give to that young you?
I wouldn't change anything, even though it took me a very long time to get here. But the advice I'd give me, and the advice I'd give really anyone, is just focus on what you love and don't let other people's opinions push you off your course too much. It's good to take advice, but there are so many times where, like, oh, I really love Pokemon theories. Like, I kind of want to share this love with other people. And people really like those videos. And other people would say, I don't know about that. Or like people were really down on shiny hunting, and these things definitely can sway you in different directions. And for me, I like so much of Pokemon that was fine, but my gut really pointed me in directions that I would have been a lot more successful early on. But I think more than anything, I just would have done the things I also love to do a little bit more. And you know, that might be different for everyone else, but as you said, I mean, that's you following what you really love is going to lead you to being happy, and that's, I don't know. What's life all about? There's a lot of ways you can go about it. Try to be happy, you know? I hope everyone watching enjoyed this, and we can make you a little bit happier, and just do what makes you happy.
I mean, that can be a more perfect way to tie into everything I aim to do with the surname Merriman. I mean, that's exactly what I aim for this podcast to do, make people's days merry. So, John, thank you so much. And the chat does not end there, because now we'll be getting into John PM7's Rapidash round, 15 or so minutes of bonus questions that John has not prepared for. And there are so many things, as always, that I want to take a deeper dive into. For example, the video on John's channel that John is proudest of, how John deals with that burnout, if that ever happens, or how to mitigate that ever coming around. More specific advice to YouTube creators as well. Hidden talents or fun facts about John, and so many more things. If that sounds of interest to you, you can become a YouTube channel member, where you get access to 4 bonus videos per month, the Rapidash rounds that I do with all of my guests, or you can buy the products individually on my Patreon, and YouTube channel members get access to all sorts of other perks as well. Fundamentally, though, really appreciate the fact that you've listened to or watched this episode in its entirety, but if you want to hang out with John and me a little bit longer and get some more of John's pearls of wisdom, that option is available to you. The links will be in the description below. But John, for now, thank you so much for joining me on Chazingdra Chats. It has been an absolutely mind-blowing episode, and I do not use that term lightly. I have learned so much from you, and I know that the listeners and watchers will have done as well, so thank you.
Hey, thank you for asking me to do this. This is a lot of fun.
I'm glad you had fun. We love listening to you, and if people want to keep up with you online, John, where can they find you?
Well, subscribe to this channel. There's a lot more podcasts coming your way. The member round, I'm excited for that. So let's focus there first. But you can find me across PM7. It used to be very difficult to find me when I was like Pokemon and be like, you mean Pokemon? Thankfully, PM7, much easier, cleaner. You'll find me.
PM7, look it up, it's all you need. And now time for some YouTube spiel from this side of things. Once more, if you've enjoyed, everybody, please do like and subscribe. It would mean a massive amount. And of course, drop a comment too, because John, as with all of my guests, has given us so much food for thought. More than 60 episodes of the podcast at this point, with a broad range of guests. We've got maybe more casual Pokemon enjoyers at this point, like John, but also more competitive guests. Wolf, like I said before, but then also trading card game, and also Go, and also Pokemon Unite. We've got Shiny Hunters, we've got influencers, the works. There's bound to be something for everyone. To spread the word about the show, you can use the hashtag 6Pokemon1Life and also on my channel, I vlog events that I cast. I'm looking forward to doing more scripted content. Just got out the insane story of my Safari Week last year, so do go and check that out. I'm currently working on my EUIC video from this year, an event that I was casting and giving the event from the caster's perspective and breaking down the game so that everyone can understand it and hopefully enjoy it. And far more besides. I stream as well, competitive, casual, Nuzlocke, the works, silly Pokemon comedy skits. If you're a fan of everything that the Pokemon video games have to offer, then my channel is the place for you. Discord community linked below as well. It'll be a pleasure to see you in there. And I'm at Chazingdra across all socials. And that being said, John, it's now time to get into your Rapidash round. So if you're not joining us over on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member for that, then it's goodbye from John.
Bye.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't cue you very clearly there. Thank you for going along with that. And it's goodbye from me. See you next time on Chazingdra Chats, while there'll be another 6 Pokemon, 1 life story. So then, John, how are you feeling about these bonus questions?
I'm excited. You know, I'm a little nervous. I'm going to try to be a little bit quicker with my answers. It won't happen, but I'm ready.
It is the Rapidash round. Let's see what we can do. So, to kick things off then, what video are you proudest of on your channel?
I am proudest of... it's tough. I've had so many videos that are so special, and I want to go with a gut, but I think... it's got to be on the channel. I have one I'm working on. I think regardless of how it does. I'll say